So you decided to start your CSGO career and now you want to participate in the ESEA league. But to participate in a league like ESEA, you will need a team of 5 players. This is the second part of my video series on my Can You Go Pro series. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, I recommend doing that right now. I explained all the basics and how to get started there. Something that I want to get straight from my last video is that although I recommended the ESEA path, it doesn't mean that you can't play FACEIT pucks or play in other tournaments and leagues. In the start you should play as much as you can and get experience on all the platforms, but your primary focus should definitely be the ESEA leagues. Okay, so in this video I'm going to explain exactly how to find a team. So why exactly find a team and not just build one? There is obviously also the option to build a team from scratch. Although this is something I would not recommend to someone who is just starting. Not many players are interested in building a team with someone with literally zero team experience. Also, since you just started out, you can learn a lot from players that already played in a team. And where can you find a team? In my opinion, there are 5 good answers to this question. Let's go through them. ESEA player search. While this enumeration isn't particularly ranked from the best to worst, I do think the ESEA player search is the most handy out of the options. Alright, so now we're on the ESEA main page and I'm gonna show you where to find the player search. First of all, the URL for this website is play.esea.net. This is what it looks like. So you go on League and then you can go to find teams and players. Depending on what you're looking for, you can either go to find a team or find a player. Since we want to find a team, we go on find a team. Now you see a bunch of different things going on here. You can see the division where the team is playing and you can see the location. In Europe it doesn't really matter where the location is because the pings should be alright, but this is more like for NA when you have like a team from the East Coast, like you can't really play when you're on the West Coast, right? Because of time difference in ping. So you can add a couple of filters. You can filter out like which division that you want to play. For most of you this will be open, and then you can see all the teams that are playing in open and that are looking for a player. You can narrow it down even more where you can look for the specific role that you want. Let's say you're a sniper, you're an AWP player, and you can see, well, there's only one team. If you click on the team, you can see the additional details, like what are they looking for. They're looking for an all-pro entry fragger for intermediate, so you can see they're 1-1 in open. That means this is the playoffs. They won their first playoff match. That means that they climbed up to intermediate. So maybe this is not the right team if you're just starting, because, well, you need experience in at least a couple of open seasons and intermediate. So you just gotta find something that fits you. Maybe you just go for all roles, so you have a little bit more teams, but in general there aren't that many teams looking here, especially when you're new. It's kind of hard to find something, but it's definitely very handy to look for a team here. RECRUITCS. This is a subreddit called RECRUITCS, where you can either post as a player looking for a team or a team posts looking for a player. There are some things that you should definitely look out for when you're searching for a team here, or also on ESEA, but especially on Reddit. And I'm talking about huge red flags. Let's see if I can find some posts that have these red flags. Alright, so I looked through some posts and I found this post looking for IGL for our team. So what you can immediately notice here is that their schedule is well, not normal. They want to play 5 days a week, Monday 8 to 11, or all the days 8 to 11, and Friday 7 to 10, and Saturday I guess the whole day. And well, that per se is not bad, but depending on where your team is, according to that you should plan your schedule. These guys are FACEIT ranks 2 to 4, MM ranks MG to DMG. they look for an IGL that has at least 1000 hours. If you remember from the first video that I said you should look for a team when you're about 2000 hours, I think it was 2000. That is the exact reason why you should avoid this, because these guys don't know how to properly play the game themselves, so the team won't go far. I mean, it's not bad per se to find a team where you can learn together and get better together, but I think you're way faster if you just play for yourself, or like play with friends and play up until a certain level and then look for a team. I would not look into posts like these where these players don't have already a solid understanding of the game. While I do think that you can have some experience with 1000 hours, I still think when I had 1000 hours, I didn't know that much about the game. Or I thought I did, but like in hindsight, I would say with 1000 hours, you're still at the beginning. So this is like an immediate red flag when they have unrealistic expectations or goals. It would be expectations in this case. I have seen so many teams, and I was part of one as well, that wanted to practice 6 or 7 times a week for at least 4 hours a day. On top of that, everyone should watch demos, practice their aim and utility, and DM for a couple of hours. And honestly, before you are an ESEA main and it starts to get really serious, you don't need to practice this much. Quality is still king here, and you would rather have a better work-life balance than practicing this much. Trust me, I've been there. I'll just tell you about the other 2 red flags because I couldn't find a post that matched it. So one red flag is when they repost almost every day for the last couple of weeks. I mean, there's obviously something wrong within the team. Don't get me wrong, it takes time to find players and to find the right players especially. But if people are reposting their recruitment post over and over and over again, then you should be very careful and see if another trial may be commented on one of the posts. And the last red flag would be when there is almost nothing you can find out about them. So a little story from myself. There was this one Polish guy that applied to our team. Let's just call him Philip for now. We had all the applicants fill out a form to find out a little bit about them. Philip claimed to have over 10,000 hours in the game, and apparently he knew Polish pro players like Snacks and Bialy, which he used to play with. I was obviously a bit skeptical about him, but I was also curious. So I started digging deeper and deeper. I tried to find the teams that he claimed to have played in, but since those were all Polish teams, I couldn't really find an international source proving this. The Steam profile he provided us was also really shady. It was a private profile with no information. The linked FACEIT account was brand new. I found at least 5 other FACEIT accounts with the same profile pictures and a similar name to his newest one. I could only access the match rooms directly though, because his old profiles were all deleted. So I started asking him some questions, because I was kind of suspecting him of cheating at this point. I mean, maybe he was just boosting some of his friends, but it really didn't make sense to me. Because inside the game, he was actually really strong. He read the opponents pretty well and was almost always top fragging. Long story short, he didn't want to answer me any of the questions and removed me immediately from his friends list. So remember, if you're looking for a team, try finding out if the people that you might play with are legit and honest. Alright, so after looking through a lot of not so good posts, to summarize this a bit, I wanted to give you an example of a good post so you know what to look for. So he perfectly described the post. I mean, it's a requirement for the subreddit, but sure. So EU, they're looking for a player, and it's an established team of 4 players that are looking for a rifler or a second op or IGL. They're also flexible with the role, so everyone can play their preferred role and can be the best player they can be. In the post they're mentioning again that they're a developed team and you would take a rifler role into that team. Short term they just want someone that can fill the role, and after that they can change. So they're willing to change. That's already a huge plus, that they can be flexible with roles and all of that. I mean, it doesn't mean that they will, but if they're mentioning it, like, you can get back to it, right? And here they're mentioning again how long they've been together, with the core players playing together even longer, which is also a really good thing because you want people to stick, right? You don't want people to change teams all the time, and it is really a huge plus and a good indicator that when players are sticking together, that they get along with each other and that there are not huge fundamental problems within the persons. Hardworking players all with high aspirations to improve, which is kind of a good asset, sure, but they have to do it, right? Not just say it, but that they mention it is also important, because you also want to improve and you also want hardworking players around you that do the same or that invest the same amount of time as you do. And they're looking to enter ESEA leagues and other tournaments. ESEA leagues, a must-have or a must-go, and maybe other tournaments, which is also good to get the experience, which I mentioned, so this is also very good. Good atmosphere, willingness to discuss and improve. Discuss and improve. This is a very important topic, which I will probably get back to in future videos as well. You always have to discuss with your team when there's something wrong, and you just have to be open to accept and give criticism, obviously, but many players say they do, but they don't. And at some point in my career I was also like that, where I thought I could take criticism, but in reality it wasn't exactly like that. So always take this with a grain of salt, and just be careful when you're trialing. They have an open practice schedule. This is also really good, because I mentioned that you shouldn't practice 5 to 6 times a week at first, as long as you're not at a certain skill level. I mean, this is very debatable, right? Some people say that you should play as much because playing more is always better than playing less, but I don't really agree with this. As I said before, quality is king, and that's why I think it's really good to have an open practice schedule and not have a really high focus on how much you actually play with the team. And they say FACEIT level 10 is desired but not 100% required, which I also like, because I mean, on one hand it gives you a rough indication of how capable a person is, but FACEIT level 10 is not an achievement that is that hard to get nowadays. I mean, a couple of years ago FACEIT level 10 was the go-to, right? But nowadays everyone can basically get level 10. And on the other hand, there are people that don't really pug that much on FACEIT, so it is not required. They can't just not take you because you don't play FACEIT, and maybe you are level 5 or something, but you could actually compete with people that are level 10. So it is good as a rough indication where you should be, but I don't think that they will not give you a chance just because you're not level 10. So don't get discouraged with that and just try it out. Just apply. Just make sure that you check the boxes. And the most important thing for you as a player is that you agree with what they are, right? You agree with their goals, you agree with their times. I mentioned it a couple of times, and I just wanted to point out that this is a post that I would apply to if I would be in that situation. Twitter. While Twitter is not necessarily a platform that is intended to find a CSGO team, I still think a social media presence in general is essential. Networking is a very important subject, and you can't start early enough. FACEIT hubs. FACEIT hubs might not be ideal to find a team per se, but you can definitely expand your network. For example, after you played a match and met a really friendly and talented guy that you decide to add on Steam. Friends and connections. This brings us to the last method. This kind of goes hand in hand with Twitter and FACEIT hubs. And I mentioned that networking is something really important. Let's say you become friends with another guy that is already playing in a team. Maybe after a while someone from his team left. Now that will be the perfect chance for you to do a tryout game for them. I think you get the point. Again, you don't have to limit yourself to just one. Ideally, you use all the mentioned methods to maximize your chances of finding a team as soon as possible. Before we summarize, I want to give you 3 free tips that you need to keep in mind. Don't force yourself in a schedule that you do not want or can't do. Look for people with the same goals and that are motivated. The skill level is not that important in the start. Just make sure that they know what they want. Don't go and instantly look for an esports organization. Okay, now, so what have we learned in this video? First, find a team and don't try to build one yet. Ideally use platforms of ESEA, Reddit or other social media and your player network. Always be skeptical when you find inconsistencies in what people tell you. Look out for red flags, because otherwise it will be just a waste of time. And last but not least, have in mind the 3 tips I just gave you. If the team seems to fit your needs, there's only one way to find out if you match together. If you need more help on finding a team, then I can be of service. I just launched a Patreon where you can support me. And in return there are some really nice benefits, like helping you with your recruitment post or giving you personal career advice. The link is in the description. In the next video we will talk about time and motivation. This is one of the most important topics of this series. After that, you should be able to make the decision if you should actually consider trying to aim for a pro career. Stay tuned. This is the end section of the video. I wanted to say thank you for the overwhelming support from the first video. As always, I would greatly appreciate if you could like this video and subscribe to my channel if you like the content. Feedback in my comments section is also always welcome. Thank you for watching and take care.